says that Pharaoh's army caught up with them. Then Moses stretched out his hand, and the Red Sea parted. But could there be any truth to this massive biblical special effect? Some scientists believe it could have happened if all the conditions were right. The key to unlocking the age-old puzzle lies in the biblical description of the incredible event. The book of Exodus says, Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided.
That to us was kind of a, maybe not a proof, but a supporting point that it's probably that parting was induced by the wind.
Oceanographer Doran Knopf suggests that the parting of the Red Sea was not an instant miracle, but a rare meteorological phenomenon called wind set-down.
You can see on the screen, this is an animation of a wind set-down. That's a phenomenon that takes place in shallow water. You see the wind blowing from the shoreline towards deeper water. And if the wind is strong enough, and the Gulf is shallow enough, it can depress the water so much that underwater ridges will be exposed.
It's time to put the wind set-down theory to the test. At Florida State University, Knopf and his dedicated team of technicians have built a giant tank and filled it with salt water suitably dyed red. In this scale experiment, the wind is generated by an industrial-sized vacuum cleaner. Knopf's ridge hypothesis is represented by curved acrylic.
So the wind blows, and you can see that essentially it blows the water away from the ridge. You can see that there is a part here with almost no water.
In the story, the Hebrews crossed the Red Sea when the ridge was exposed like this.
Okay, can you please turn it off now? But you're going to see now with the wind off, the water is going to be slashing back.
The lab experiment is a success. It proves, in theory, that wind set-down can part water. But the entire theory rests upon finding an underwater ridge in the Red Sea. Our experts think they've found it right where the Bible says it is.
Coming up next, the premiere of Unwrapping the Shroud, New Evidence. It's all new on Discovery.
The Bible states that Moses parted the Red Sea after God sends a powerful wind that blows all night. Our scale experiment proved that wind set-down can part a body of water to reveal an underwater ridge. But is there any such ridge under the surface of the Red Sea? Our investigation so far suggests that Moses and the Hebrews fled Egypt across the Sinai Peninsula, arriving at the Red Sea at the modern-day Gulf of Aqaba. Today, Aqaba is a modern tourist haven where the nations of Israel, Jordan, and Egypt meet. Underwater topography shows no hidden ridges, but 3,000 years ago, conditions were very different.
We know that 2,000 years ago, the waters of the Gulf of Aqaba came up another 200 yards onto the shore. And we know this because there's a Roman city called Isla. And Roman literature tells us that Isla was a port at the head of the Gulf of Aqaba. And now, Isla is 200 yards away from the head of the Gulf of Aqaba. And I think if you go back to the Exodus, 3,000 years ago, probably it went up another 100 yards as well.
When computer animation redraws the shoreline of Aqaba as it was in 1250 BCE, the ridgelines offshore are submerged. Today's modern shoreline would have been a submerged ridge 3,000 years ago. If the Red Sea parted, it could have been right here.
I think where this great event occurred was probably 300 yards or so onshore, today's Gulf of Aqaba. So it's actually ideal for the wind set-down effect.
But Dr. Knopf wanted to see if his theory would hold up in a real body of water. Now it is time to raise the stakes and take the experiment out of the lab and onto the coast. In the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of Florida, Doran Knopf has devised a unique experiment that will test his wind set-down theory on a bigger scale. If this experiment is successful, it may prove that the Red Sea could have truly been parted, just as the Bible says it did.
We are here at the Florida State University Marine Lab that is behind me. We are going to try to demonstrate how the Red Sea could have been parted.
Airboats with powerful fans will blow jets of wind at approximately 100 miles an hour, ideal conditions for wind set-down. The Gulf provides real-world hydrodynamics, like mass, air pressure, and shoreline conditions, which can't be replicated in an acrylic tank. The jet boat fans blow straight down the Gulf. The scale experiment is a success, revealing that if the wind blows hard enough and for long enough, wind can part the ocean, exposing a land bridge. But the Bible also tells us that when the wind stopped blowing, the walls of waves came crashing down and drowned the Pharaoh's army. And when our team stops the wind from blowing, we see how it could have actually happened 3,000 years ago.
The water is going to rush back, and when it's going to rush back, it's going to rush back very quickly, and the force will be analogous to a truck going at about 40 or 50 miles per hour, hitting you standing someplace. That's the force that you will feel.
It's a small-scale test on a Florida bayou, not the entire Red Sea. But the scale experiment proves that powerful winds, blowing long enough, can part a body of water and expose dry land. The Bible says that after Moses and his people crossed to freedom, they had one more goal: the mountain of God.
No, we don't know. Umpteen million shots of Israel.
Can our experts discover the actual mountain where Moses spoke with God and received the 10 Commandments?
We need Google, basically.
Coming up next, the premiere of Unwrapping the Shroud, New Evidence. It's all new on Discovery.
There is a final mystery in the tale of the biblical Exodus. After crossing the Red Sea, Moses leads his people to Sinai, the mountain of God, where he receives the 10 Commandments. A mountain called Sinai exists in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Proposed as the biblical mountain in the 4th century CE, the peak gets thousands of pilgrims visiting every year. Yet if our theory is correct, then this peak cannot be the mountain where Moses received the law. If the chosen people crossed the Red Sea at Aqaba instead of Suez, this mountain would be 150 miles behind them. Where is the real Mount Sinai? The book of Exodus gives us a clue. as Moses and the Hebrews follow God's signposts. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, to go by day and night. Dr. Colin Humphreys and Peter Williams of Cambridge University have explored the various possible explanations and believe this strange description is a simple but accurate depiction of a single natural phenomenon: a volcano.
In the daytime, what you mainly see are these thick clouds of smoke coming from a volcano. At nighttime, what you see are the flames. And so a volcano makes sense.
There are no active volcanoes in the Sinai Peninsula, but there are several in Saudi Arabia, near the proposed crossing site at Aqaba. But can the actual volcano of Moses be located? The Bible itself seems to give specific directions.
Now, you're taking this 11-day journey, essentially.
Humphreys and Williams have combed ancient maps they believe provide clues leading to the mountain of God, helped by a verbal map that seems to be encoded into the words of the Bible itself in the book of Deuteronomy.
So I think a key clue as to where Mount Sinai is a statement in the first chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, which says it's an 11 days journey from a place called Kadesh Barnea to Mount Sinai. And a typical day's journey on a pilgrim route is about 37 miles. And so that comes to 412 miles.
The city of Kadesh Barnea is marked on several ancient maps. And in the 412-mile radius, there is only one volcano big enough and active enough to create a smoke pillar that the Hebrews saw and followed from many miles away. It is called Mount Beder, and when Moses receives the law on the mountain, the Bible says the smoke billowed up like smoke from a furnace. The whole mountain trembled violently. An awe-inspiring eruption that could only have come from an active volcano.
If you accept Mount Sinai as a volcano, it seems to me there's a unique solution for that mountain. It has to be Beder, and there's nothing else.
Our biblical investigators have created a scientifically sound sequence of theories that seems to exactly match the words of the Bible. From the 10 plagues of Egypt, to the parting of the Red Sea, to the mountain of God itself, the miracles of Exodus can be explained as scientific phenomena, but that does not make the stories any less miraculous.
When you think about just the hardship that they'd endured, they cry out from their heart to God, and God comes in and sends a deliverer. I think it's a great story.
But to the faithful, discovering the science behind the Bible may be missing the point.
Exodus is a story that speaks about an underdog, and through faith and perseverance, actually can overcome whatever oppression, whatever troubles I might be facing in life.
The miracles of Exodus tell an astonishing tale. It is a tale that will continue to be told as long as people value freedom, and as long as humanity looks for wisdom in the Bible.